There's something happening right now that nobody's talking about because you're not supposed to know. You've been watching headlines about Gaza, about Tehran, about protests. But behind all of this noise, India and Israel are pulling off the most strategic silent strike in modern history. And if you think this is just about POK, you're wrong. This is about geopolitical revenge and a plan that's been unfolding for over a decade. And if you think this is just theory, wait till I show you the satellite maneuvers, defense treaties, and psychological ops that are already in motion. You are about to hear what the news won't tell you. And I promise, by the end of this talk, you'll never look at a map the same way again. Let's go. In the world of global politics, there are partnerships born out of necessity, and then there are alliances born out of shared. The India-Israel relationship doesn't scream headlines every day. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. But it is deliberate, ruthlessly calculated, and undeniably transformative, especially when it comes to POK, Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir. Let's be clear. This isn't your typical bilateral friendship based on trade or photo ops. This is a strategic brotherhood, forged in the fires of conflict, honed by intelligence operations, and sharpened by mutual threat. Both countries have long faced asymmetric warfare, terrorism-poncered borders, and existential threats from neighboring Islamic regimes. And what do two nations do when they've fought parallel battles for decades? They join hands. Quietly. You see, this isn't about handshakes at summits. This is about encrypted communication channels, black ops coordination, deep state cooperation, and tactical foresight that runs deeper than any official joint statement. India and Israel aren't just exchanging technology, they're trading doctrine. Let's look at the roots of this alliance. Post-1999 Kargil War, India realized that traditional warfare strategies were no longer enough. Israel, having perfected the art of surgical strikes and preemptive defense, think Entebbe raid, became the go-to partner. Over the next 20 years, Israel didn't just give India drones, sensors, and missiles. It gave it a mindset, a blueprint, one that says, wait for no one, strike first, leave no doubt. Israel has been instrumental in modernizing India's defense capability, from Heron drones flying over Ladakh and Kashmir to Spike anti-tank missiles guarding the low sea. But the exchange wasn't one-sided. India gave Israel access to massive South Asian intelligence channels, logistic hubs, and diplomatic leverage in a region Israel had little direct control over. So what does this have to do with POK? Everything. Because POK isn't just about territory, it's about leverage, timing, and coordination. Pakistan has always treated POK as both a shield and a launch pad, a region weaponized with training camps, infiltrators, and strategic outposts. Reclaiming it isn't a matter of military muscle. It's a matter of precision and surprise. And that's where the Indo-Israeli synergy becomes lethal. Here's what makes this alliance different. It operates outside the spotlight. While the world watches the US and China, this quiet axis is mastering stealth. It's a silent storm. While public attention is locked on Iran's threats or Gaza's crises, India and Israel are mapping terrain, infiltrating networks, and digitally surveilling every inch of POK in real time. Israel's cyber units, arguably the best on the planet, are believed to be coordinating with ROW and Indian military intelligence to preempt threats before they even surface. They're feeding actionable intelligence that doesn't just stop attacks, but sets the stage for something far bigger, a permanent surgical reclamation. Let's not forget, Israel knows what it's like to reclaim lost land and hold it against all odds. From the Golan Heights to the West Bank, Israel has fought for and kept land under international pressure. That playbook is something India is quietly studying. And in return, Israel gets a stronger ally in the East who is willing to challenge Islamic extremism at the root, not just the leaves. But here's what will blow your mind. This brotherhood is so deep that military doctrines have started to align. The cold start doctrine of India, a rapid, hard-hitting strike deep into enemy territory without declaring war, bears eerie resemblance to Israel's mowing the grass strategy in Gaza. Swift, decisive, and unapologetic. Coincidence? Not a chance. It's by design. This is not a public alliance. This is a operational alliance. A war-tested fraternity that doesn't post about every move, but ensures every move counts. It's about leveraging each other's unique capabilities. India's boots on the ground and Israel's brains in the sky. So when you see Israeli defense contractors setting up joint ventures in India or Indian officers training in Tel Aviv, know this. It's not just defense cooperation. It's mission rehearsal. The chessboard is set. POK is the prize. And India and Israel, they're playing a two-player game while the rest of the world is still reading the rule book. When we think of war, most people imagine tanks rolling, missiles launching, soldiers storming borders. That's the war of yesterday. The war of today, it doesn't start with boots. It starts with bites. Welcome to the silent battlefield, where India and Israel have quietly joined forces to unleash a technological and intelligence revolution aimed at changing the rules of the game in POK forever. Let's cut the noise. You don't reclaim a territory like POK just by marching in with flags. You disable, disrupt, and dominate before anyone even knows what happened. That's where this next level alliance between India and Israel becomes game-changing. Both nations have invested heavily in something the world severely underestimates: pre-battle supremacy. The digital front lines before the first bullet is fired. There are thousands of digital battles already taking place. Israel, through its legendary cyber command unit, Unit 8200, has mastered the art of electronic warfare. This isn't just hacking computers. This is penetrating enemy communication networks, scrambling command systems, turning on microphones in enemy HQs without their knowledge. It's real-time eyes and ears behind enemy lines without ever crossing a border. Now picture this. Indian intelligence agencies like RAW and NTRO collaborating directly with Israeli cyber units to surveil POK. We're talking live data from satellites, intercepted phone calls, decrypted military chatter, and drone footage analyzed by AI in real time. And it's already happening. In recent years, drone incursions over POK have skyrocketed, not for combat, but for data mapping. What is being built where? Who's moving? When? For what purpose? It's a total shift from reacting to predicting. And every time an enemy commander breathes, India and Israel know where, when, and why. The Eye in the Sky, Israel's OFEC satellite series, and India's RISAT systems are now operating with synchronized targeting data. What does that mean? It means both countries can watch every inch of POK 24/7, even through cloud cover, even in pitch darkness. Every time an arms shipment moves into a terrorist training camp near Muzaffarabad, or a Pakistani battalion changes location, satellite AI flags it. No human delay, no guesswork. But here's the kicker. Israel's real-time image recognition AI doesn't just show what's happening, it tells you what's about to happen. It's pattern-based prediction. That's the future of warfare. And India now has access to it. You don't need 100 bombs when you've got one drone armed with the exact coordinates of the decision maker. That's efficiency warfare. Minimal force, maximum impact. The power of PSYOPs. But this goes beyond machines. Silent weaponry also means psychological operations, and Israel is a master at that game. From false flag intel leaks to deep fake propaganda, these aren't just tactics. They're warfare, and India has started using them too. In the last few years, we've seen sudden demoralization among insurgent ranks in Kashmir. Why? Because they're being digitally tracked, psychologically profiled, and preemptively neutralized, sometimes with arrests, sometimes with silence. This tech-enabled war means leaders are afraid to speak on phones. Foot soldiers don't trust their handlers, and every move they make could be the last. And this move makes it impossible for honest representations of the truth to be protected. It's terror turned inward. Joint Defense Tech Innovation behind closed doors, Israeli and Indian scientists are co-developing next-gen battlefield solutions. Everything from AI-assisted tactical helmets for Indian special forces to drone swarms that can autonomously recon, attack, and retreat. Israel's Iron Dome has inspired India's DRDO to accelerate its own missile interception systems, but this time for mountain warfare condition. The partnership has evolved from procurement to co-creation. They're not just selling each other tech, they're designing the future of hybrid warfare together. Silence is the strategy. What makes all of this even more powerful? It's happening without a sound. No flashy press releases, no joint parade, no televised demonstrations, because that's the beauty of silent weaponry. By the time you know it's being used, it's already won. And in the case of POK, that's the goal. Before the world even notices a shift, before Pakistan can mobilize countermeasures, the entire landscape strategically, digitally, and psychologically will be under control. The old wars were fought with tanks. The new wars are fought with terabytes. And India and Israel, they're not just prepared for it, they're writing the new manual. Some conflicts are born in the present, others are inherited. And then there are those that are engraved in blood, time, and memory, passed down from generation to generation like a wound that never fully heals. POK, Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir, is one such wound. Let's strip away the political jargon and get brutally honest. This isn't just a matter of land on a map. This is about a broken promise, a cut-off limb of a civilization, a region that was stolen during chaos and left in the shadows by decades of global diplomacy, cowardice, and compromise. And now, India's done waiting. Because reclaiming POK isn't just about strategic advantage. It's about historical justice, a history of betrayal. Let's rewind the clock to 1947, during the partition of British India. While the world watched the chaotic birth of two nations, a smaller battle was erupting in the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. The Maharaja, Hari Singh, chose to accede to India, but before his ink dried on the instrument of accession, Pakistani tribal militias, backed by its military, invaded. What happened next? A partial war, a rushed ceasefire, and a political move that changed everything. India went to the United Nations. Big mistake. Instead of finishing what was clearly an invasion, India paused. Diplomacy entered. And Pakistan walked away with a third of Kashmir, which today we call POK. This was not a negotiation. It was a theft, a hijacking, dressed up in paperwork and truce agreements. And it created a wound in India's identity, because for the first time, its sovereignty was incomplete. It's in the DNA. Why does this matter today? Because nations never forget. Just like families pass down traditions and stories, nations pass down injustice. Every Indian child has grown up hearing about POK, not as an aspiration, but as a part of India that was never supposed to be taken. It's printed in school textbooks, it's in military maps, it's declared in parliament, it's embedded in the very psyche of the Indian nation. This isn't a fringe narrative. This is official, constitutional, and ideological. And that means one thing. There is no expiry date on reclaiming what's rightfully yours. The lies of peace. For decades, the global community pressured India to talk, to cooperate, to de-escalate. Meanwhile, POK became a terror haven. Let's call it what it is. Pakistan didn't just occupy POK, it weaponized it. It became the launch pad for infiltration into Indian Kashmir, radicalization of youth, terror training camps run by state-backed proxies, cross-border attacks like Kargil and Pulwama. So ask yourself, how long does a country tolerate an open wound being turned into a weapon? Reclaiming POK is not an act of aggression. It's self-defense through history, from symbol to strategy. But here's where things have changed. For years, reclaiming POK was seen as symbolic, a dream. Not anymore. The Indian government has made it clear. Article 370 is gone. The map is being redrawn, first legally, then psychologically, and now perhaps physically. And who's helping write this strategy? Israel. Because Israel understands this better than anyone. They've lived this. Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, Gaza. Each of these battles was born in history. And like India, Israel doesn't just fight for safety. It fights for memory. The moral high ground. Let's make something crystal clear. Reclaiming POK is not just a military goal. It's a moral obligation. For the families of soldiers who died in 1947, 1965, 1999, for the Kashmiri Pandits driven out of their ancestral land, for the generations of Indians told to accept what was stolen, for the people still living in POK, under repression, surveillance, and silence. Justice delayed is still justice. And history, no matter how long it sleeps, never forgets who betrayed it. The clock is ticking. We're not talking about an emotional outburst. We're talking about a long-delayed course correction that has finally found its clarity. India has the military strength. India has the international alliances. India has the technological edge. And now, India has the political will. Add to that Israel's surgical expertise and preemptive tactics, and the question isn't if POK will be reclaimed, it's when. War in the 21st century doesn't always come with a warning. There are no declarations, no flags raised, no dramatic speeches. Sometimes war begins with a handshake, and sometimes the most dangerous strike is the one that happens while everyone's looking the other way. This is the story of how India and Israel are moving toward a potential reclamation of Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir. Not with chest-thumping bravado, but with a mix of high-stakes diplomacy and low-visibility precision tactics that could shock the world when it finally erupts. The art of distraction. Let's get this straight. Geopolitical moves of this scale don't happen in broad daylight. They happen under layers of misdirection. While the world is glued to headlines about Gaza, Ukraine, Taiwan, or Iran, India and Israel are playing a different game, a quiet endgame. The noise elsewhere is not a coincidence. It's a calculated distraction. Remember this. While Israel is under global scrutiny for its actions in Gaza, while India projects itself as a stabilizing force in Asia, both are preparing for operations that need maximum silence and minimal resistance. This is what we call diplomatic cover, a cloak of international engagement, humanitarian optics, and public restraint that hides the tactical thunder building behind the scenes. The smoke of peace talks. India and Pakistan are not currently at war. There are no full-scale military standoffs, but don't be fooled. Diplomatic silence is not peace. It's a calculated pause, and during this pause, something extraordinary is happening. Defensive installations are being upgraded On the Indian side, joint Israeli-Indian cyber drills are testing digital lockdown capabilities. Special forces training is quietly escalating in terrain that mirrors POK. Surveillance drones and AI mapping are charting infiltration routes in real time. And all of this is happening without a single press release. Diplomacy in this context is the perfect decoy. While world leaders talk about climate, trade, and peace, a tactical plan is maturing in total silence. India and Israel, the unseen axis. The brilliance of this alliance lies in its complementary silence. Israel doesn't speak about Kashmir. India doesn't comment on Gaza. Both stay out of each other's high-profile conflicts publicly. But behind the scenes, the coordination is razor sharp. Israel provides the tools: cyber weapons, AI-based battlefield simulation, satellite intelligence, drones with real-time terrain assessment. India provides the terrain, manpower, and moral justification, historical mandate over POK ground-level familiarity, local intelligence networks. This is not just cooperation. This is a symbiotic strike strategy, tactical thunder, in slow motion. Let's be clear. The plan to reclaim POK is not about a single lightning bolt. It's about layered readiness, step by step, silently. Phase 1, data domination. India, with Israeli tech, has already mapped critical assets inside POK. From army outposts to terror camps, from roads to tunnels. They know the terrain better than the people living there. Phase 2, network penetration, telecom signals, defense communications, and even surveillance camera grids inside POK are now vulnerable to remote jamming, interception, or redirection. Phase 3, pre-strike disabling when the operation begins, whenever it happens. Expect no warning. Expect a communications blackout, air defense scramble, and logistics chaos inside enemy camps. Why? Because their systems will be pre-disabled using silent cyber weapons. Phase 4, swift surgical advance. This isn't about waving flags and marching columns. This is about parachutes, drone strikes, and commando raids targeting high-value installations while the enemy is still confused and uncoordinated. Jogo deniability. Why hasn't the world reacted? Because there's no proof, no headlines, no military buildup on camera. Everything India and Israel are doing is within the framework of defensive modernization and counter-terror strategy. Perfectly legal, completely justifiable. And that's the genius. By the time the world realizes what's happening, it will be too late to interfere. The storm under the silence. People expect war to be loud, but the most effective operations begin in total silence until the strike hits and the world asks, how did we not see this coming? Because that's the point. Diplomacy is the smoke. Tactical thunder is the fire. And right now, while the world sees diplomacy, India and Israel are preparing a lightning strike that could redefine South Asia forever. If you want to pull off a high-stakes operation, one that shakes borders, rewrites maps, and challenges decades of status quo, you don't need permission, you need distraction. In the game of geopolitics, timing is everything. And India and Israel, two nations with legendary patience and precision, know this better than anyone. They're not waiting for the world to approve. They're waiting for the world to look somewhere else. And that moment, it's not coming. It's already here. Chaos on the global stage. Let's look at the world right now. Russia versus Ukraine, still raging. Western attention completely absorbed. Gaza war, Israel under constant international scrutiny. UN sessions, protests worldwide. China versus Taiwan, flashpoints growing. U.S. heavily involved in deterrence. Iran's nuclear program. The West is on high alert. Sudan, Yemen, Congo. Ongoing conflicts draining humanitarian focus. U.S. election year. America's distracted by internal polarization and political warfare. The world isn't just distracted. It's drowning in its own crises. This is the perfect geopolitical blind spot. And what happens in blind spots? Shadow operations, silent shifts, tactical advances. The power of invisibility. The best operations are those you never see coming. And the best way to make sure no one notices your move is by making them believe something bigger is happening elsewhere. Israel has mastered this tactic. While the world screams about Gaza, it quietly conducts high-value operations in Syria, Lebanon, and Iran, without ever making the front page. It uses the noise of outrage as a shield for action. Now apply that to India. If you try and take your finger off them, they punch the wall bigger to make your borders. It's when you're afraid that someone else is doomed. While international media focuses on India's global trade ambitions, its diplomatic partnerships, and its space exploration programs, something else is brewing beneath the surface. Military assets are being repositioned quietly. Commandos are being retrained for cross-border precision ops. Specialized drone fleets are being tested for mountain terrain dominance. And the world? Busy watching Gaza, Ukraine, and TikTok bans. That's the distraction play in full effect. Distraction isn't a coincidence. It's a strategy. What most people don't realize is this. Distractions aren't accidents. They are engineered. They're allowed, amplified, and timed for one reason: to create space for action elsewhere. India and Israel have carefully learned from decades of U.S. covert operations. They understand that a window for offensive action doesn't open when the enemy is weak. It opens when the world isn't watching. And right now, the eyes of the world are elsewhere. That's not an opportunity. That's a countdown. Timing is everything. Look at the timeline. After India revoked Article 370 and reorganized Jammu and Kashmir, it faced heavy scrutiny. But that spotlight faded within months. Post-COVID, international bodies have no appetite for new wars or peacekeeping missions unless there's a massive humanitarian crisis. Israel, despite being embroiled in its own war, is still maintaining its intelligence alliances with India, quietly feeding operational insights into cross-border logistics, terrain shifts, and troop movements in POK. Pakistan, meanwhile, is financially crippled, politically unstable, and diplomatically isolated. What does that mean? Perfect storm. Pakistan can't rally international support. The UN is overbooked. China is focused on Taiwan, and NATO is exhausted in Ukraine. This is the moment history waits for. When conditions align so perfectly, the enemy never sees it coming. The silent green light. No international body will officially give the green light to reclaim POK. But that's the beauty of the distraction play. You don't need a green light when no one is looking. This is where the genius of this India-Israel strategy becomes crystal clear. The diplomats keep smiling. The news cycle keeps spinning. The enemies stay reactive. And then, bam! A coordinated, silent offensive begins, backed by months or years of preparation, while the rest of the world is still arguing about Gaza or gas prices. The final act of distraction. If and when this operation moves from intelligence gathering to military execution, expect it to be swift, surgical, contained, and complete before the world fully understands what just happened. Because that's the point of a perfect distraction. By the time they look back, the map has already changed. And all they'll be left with is headlines that say, India reclaims POK in a historic, unopposed offensive. Every nation has a moment that defines it, not just for the people living in it today, but for the generations who will read about it tomorrow. For the United States, it was the landing on the moon. For Israel, it was the reclaiming of Jerusalem. For Germany, it was the fall of the Berlin Wall. For India, it's coming, and its name is POK. This isn't just another military campaign. It's a legacy move. The kind of moment where history pauses, rewrites itself, and never looks the same again. It's earned, let's be brutally honest. India is no longer the hesitant, post-colonial state it once was. It's now a rising technological giant, a nuclear power, and a spacefaring democracy. But there's still something unfinished in its story, something left behind in the chaos of 1947. POK is the scar that every Indian government, every military chief, and every generation has carried. Quietly, sometimes angrily, always painfully. The difference today? This generation is no longer interested in carrying the wound. They want to heal it. They want to close the chapter. They want to own the legacy, the moment of reclaiming POK. Reclaiming POK would not just be a territorial victory, it would be a spiritual, psychological, and geopolitical rebirth. It would mark the moment when India transforms from a regional power to a continental force. The Indian Army, often forced into defensive postures, proves it can set the agenda. The legacy of partition is finally overcome, not just endured. The world reevaluates its assumptions about India's strategic resolve, and it would send a message, not just to Pakistan, but to every nation in Asia and beyond. India no longer asks, it acts. A generational shift in power. What's unfolding now is much bigger than a military strategy. It's about generational power transfer. Old world diplomacy is crumbling. New alliances are being shaped by AI. Cyber power, precision warfare, and real-time intelligence. India is no longer reacting to threats, it's engineering its own outcomes. With the help of Israel's unmatched tactical brainpower and global intelligence reach. In this new world order, nations that create history don't just survive, they dominate. And reclaiming POK would be India's declaration of dominance. History never forgets first. Think about it. The first time a divided Germany reunited, it was celebrated globally. The first time Israel reclaimed its ancient capital, it changed the Middle East forever. The first time India reclaims a piece of itself, it will be studied, dissected, and remembered for centuries. This is not just about redrawing borders. It's about redrawing belief systems. It's about showing the world that a democracy can be decisive, that a peaceful nation can also be powerful, and that patience, when paired with strategy, is unstoppable. The cost of not acting is greater than the risk. Every legacy move carries risk. Yes, reclaiming POK could spark tensions. Yes, the international community may raise its eyebrows. Yes, enemies will retaliate with propaganda, cyber attacks, maybe even proxy warfare. But let's be crystal clear. The cost of inaction is far greater. If India backs down again, if another decade passes with POK under foreign control, if this generation fails to finish what was started in 1947, then the legacy becomes one of hesitation, not heroism. But if it succeeds, India becomes the author of its own destiny, finally, fully, and unapologetically. Writing the next chapter, legacy isn't just about what you inherit. It's about what you create this moment, this quiet storm building behind diplomacy, precision, and resolve has the potential to become India's greatest story of modern times. A story where justice triumphs over compromise, strategy outpaces chaos, honor reclaims what history misplaced. And above all, a story where a new generation of Indians gets to say, we finished what our forefathers started. We healed the wound. We reclaimed our legacy. The final word. Reclaiming POK isn't a matter of if. It's a matter of vision, timing, and will. The alliances are ready. The strategy is in place. The distractions